Hello, Ray Lee with Speedboat Magazine here with another episode of the Boats and Bros podcast with Myrick, Coil, and we have our guest here today with Tim Seebold of the F1 Powerboat Championship Series. How are you?
Icon.
Doing good. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Oh, it's such an honor to have you on board with us. How are you? How's the family?
Everybody's good. My dad's been going through a little health thing with his throat, but all in all, everybody's healthy and good. And, it's summertime, so we're going to boat races and enjoying the Lake of the Ozarks.
Yeah, that's nice. I was thinking back, Tim. I was thinking back in 1992, 1993. I was a freshman in high school, and my parents took me up to Seebold Motorsports, and we bought a SL 750 Polaris jet ski.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't know if you ever, obviously you don't remember it because you probably sold like 10 million of those things, but it was probably one of the best days of my life when we took delivery of the old Polaris SL 750.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I got to take it home and up in the Gravois arm and just basically wear it out. And
That's
years
awesome.
and years and years and years of fun on that thing. So
man, we sold a lot of those.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. My Missy's over here. She's cooking dinner, and she said, way better than Preston's experience because we got him a jet ski, and he blew it up in the first day.
That was my little brother's MO. He never raced. My older brother, Michael, raced. Myself, my dad, my grandfather. My little brother never raced, and he tore up more of the pleasure boats than anybody else.
What was your little brother? I don't know your little brother. What's his name?
Billy,
Really?
Yeah.
And he wasn't into the racing, huh?
No, just wasn't his deal. But I mean, he would drive the shit out of the boats, but he wasn't that guy.
I was telling Ray earlier, I mean, I could tear up a crowbar in a sand pile the last month. I literally broke every boat that I raced in Sarasota. And then today I broke another one. And I'm not talking little. We were ringing it up. I was like, probably did about $250,000 in the past couple months. So not good. Thank God I ain't got a dime in it.
Wow. Yeah. You get on those waves, and it's just like sometimes you try so hard, and you can't find your ass with both hands really, because you're just trying so hard and everything just stacks up against you. And then other times it just comes so easy.
Yeah. Whether something comes across you after you cross the finish line, you can't believe that. This was like last turn leading the whole race, and then shit hit the fan. And that feeling is like, oh man.
Yeah, we were on the water when that happened, man. That was painful to watch you guys.
I forgot you're in that Nortec that picked us up and took us back to the other boat so we could go break it. Thanks for that.
Hey, Myrick, don't feel bad. When we first started making Mod VP boats in the early 80s, my dad had me race that class so that way we could, try and get the boats out front, do testing, sell boats. And I wrecked 10 races in a row.
Oh my God. I'll probably be done if I do that.
And three of them went to the dump.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Yeah.
So on that, Tim, obviously your family are legendary in the boat racing world. Take us through the lineage. It started with your granddad?
Yes. My grandpa, he started racing in 1939.
Bill Sr.
Bill Sr. And it's kind of a funny story because he started selling outboards in his mom's basement. And that's how he got going. And then he started.
Was that at the Lake of the Ozarks?
No, Granite City, Illinois.
I see.
So right across the river from St. Louis. And so he started selling outboards. He went to a boat race and he liked it. So instead of doing what most normal people would do, which is buy somebody's boat that's running, so then you learn how to drive it, he didn't do that. He made his own boat right off the bat. So he built his own boat. Then he went racing. And the funny thing about it is, he really didn't. He really wasn't a swimmer. So he had to have that life jacket on in order to, you know, boat race. And it's just been a great story. He was actually one of the first Honda dealers in the metropolitan St. Louis area. And so he had the Mercury and the Honda motorcycles. And the Japanese came in from Honda and said, you got to make a decision. What do you want to do? You want to be a motorcycle dealer or a boat dealer? He said, let me help you load the motorcycles up.
That's a good story for Mercury Racing or Mercury right there.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously you made the right decision.
Oh, yeah. So after my dad and my grandfather, they were racing the kneel down runabouts and hydros, stock outboards, mods, and alkies. And my grandpa won champion. He won one or two championships, 54 and 56, I think. And I said, Grandpa, what made you decide to quit racing? He said, when I took the boat out, my dad was in the Army. When my grandpa went to a race and he ran towards the back of the pack, and my dad came home on leave and went out and won with that same boat and setup, my grandpa said, yeah, it's time for me to step aside. And then my dad took over. My dad started racing when he was 11. And then my grandfather really focused on propellers. So he was a propeller guy. And so
I've heard stories that he could literally, like, you'd tell him what you wanted or what the boat was doing, and he'd just start banging on it right there in front of you and get it.
Oh, yeah. Trailer
Yeah.
hitch ball. He used to have, and I still have it, piece of railroad track that he worked down, and he would bend all the props on this piece of railroad track.
That. Talk about some nostalgic, cool stuff there.
Oh yeah, and how do you learn even how to do that? So when I was in college, I'd skip school one day a week, drive from Columbia down to his farm, and I'd work on props with him one day a week so I could have money to buy beer and food.
That's great.
So my dad continued to race in the late 60s. He was very successful in the Alkies. He ran for Marshall Grant, which I don't know if you guys know who that is. He was the bass player, or I'm sorry, the bass player and the manager for Johnny Cash. But he was also head of the NOA technical division for the motors.
Wow,
so
that's cool.
W.S. Holland was the drummer, and he was also a boat racer. Marshall had my dad drive for him, and Johnny sponsored the team. And then Carl Perkins, who wrote Blue Suede Shoes, amongst other hits, he used to carry my dad out to the boat so he wouldn't be wet before the heats.
Wow.
So
that's some killer
it's
stuff.
kind of it's really cool because those guys were just all buddies,
Yeah.
But this is what their passion was when they weren't making music.
Yeah.
And then in the late 60s, my dad ran Long Gone, the 7-liter hydro. And then Gary Garbrick called him, and then he started running tunnel boats. And then before too long, he just concentrated on tunnel boats. My dad was at that time racing all over the world when my brother and I got old enough. So when my brother's 5 years older than me, Mike's 5 years older. So I was 8, Mike was, 12, 13, and my grandfather started us in J Hydro. So we had 6.5 horsepower Mercuries on the back of our. Tim Chance was from St. Louis. He built all the J Hydros, and we had about 8 kids around St. Louis, and we'd go and we raced J Hydro at the St. Louis Grand Prix one year.
Wow, that's so cool.
72, we did that. Yeah.
That had to be an awesome way to grow up. I mean,
oh my God,
going
it was
boat racing. I'm hanging out with Dad. I'm hanging out with my brother and family, Aunt, Grandpa, all that. That had to be great upbringing.
You didn't want to do anything else, because my dad and my brother were my heroes when it came to boat racing. So, my mom would try to get us into everything. I played every kind of sport there was, but she'd say, go motorcycle riding or racing so you don't go boat racing. But you just didn't want to do that, You wanted to be with them, be like them, and hopefully be somewhere in the realm as good as them. Yeah.
Tim, do you think it was something in the genes that you guys all found success? I mean, when you started racing, did it just come naturally to you?
It was not. Well, I don't know. I mean, I wrecked a lot of stuff. My brother wrecked a lot of stuff. But one of the things that we had and we learned was the fact that you had to have a lot of seat time. So that was what really helped us. And to be honest with you, so after we were racing for a long time, then my dad, my brother, and myself, we all raced in the same class, Formula One. So I didn't care if I got third to last, long as they were behind me. And I really,
yeah, because you got to go sit at the dinner table with them and drink a beer with them, and you just want to, you could talk shit at that point.
No, you want to beat them. I mean, out of everybody in the world, I didn't care about nobody but beating them. But as it turns out, if you beat them, you usually won. But I think that's what really, I know that's what helped me for sure.
Yeah.
The competitiveness between my dad, and my older brother, and Mike and I always pushed each other so that way we would become better. But for me, it was a lot different because my dad and my brother could drive the boat in a way that I never could. My brother, Greg Foster, who's on the screen behind me, Scott Gilman, Guido Capolini, Bill Seebold, Renato Molinari, there's a certain handful of people throughout the history of Formula One powerboat racing that can just make that boat do what nobody else can. So for me, I had to figure out a different way to try and beat them and be competitive with them. So for me, I have a totally different driving style than they did, but that's what you got to do different because it's so hard to beat them at their own game.
Sure.
Yeah. I feel the same thing about offshore. It's like, and when you going back to what you were saying about beating or trying to figure out how to do it, it's funny. It reflects back to me as like when you live it and you do it every day and you get all this seat time, it's not hard to figure out what has to be done. It's just doing it consistently and not making a mistake. And
oh yeah,
because there's so many people that will give you the knowledge. It's just taking each little bit of it and trying to use it to help you out or to help your team out. Yeah.
No, and it's, there's a lot of people that will help you, but then you got to decipher that information and learn what works for Myrick, what works for your team, what works for your setup. So
I know there's a lot of times I'll come back from a race and people have either watched it on live stream or they'll be watching it and they're like, why didn't you swing it out as wide as Sean Trente? And I was like, my boat wasn't built to do that. It will not
Yeah.
fly through the corner, all out of shape, drifting out. I'm a point A to point B racer. I want that thing to hook, grab, and go. There's no drifting, and I mean, it's just funny because like Michigan City, they're like, man, he was going along the beach, and that's where he was getting you. I was like, okay, I think he was faster everywhere, but that one spot that you guys could see that you thought that's
Right.
where he was getting me, wasn't necessarily what was going to change the race. But anyway, that's what I love about the stock class too, because and watching you guys in the F1, like at the Power Fest there, it's unbelievable for me to see how little changes make such a big difference. So,
Oh yeah, it's subtle changes, and like you say, with especially if you're running a series in powerboat racing, it's not like you're going down to the local dirt track where you're running 50 nights a year, twice a
yeah,
week. You're
yeah,
running 5, 6 races, and you're trying to win a championship off of 5, 6 races. So you
yeah,
mess one of those races up, you're done. The guy
yeah,
that wins the championships has the best off day.
yeah, yeah. It's true. And Sarasota last week or 2 weeks ago, battling my mentor Johnny Tomlinson and Sean's boat, and we break a motor mount, and it was bittersweet, but it is what it is, and just one of those things. Uh, the old goat got me.
Oh yeah. Well, Johnny's been around a long time. He used to run tunnel boats. He used to
Yeah,
run SST 140 with me,
yeah,
and he's got a great story. You got to ask him about it. So he goes testing one time by himself, and he
yeah.
blows the boat over. And I think I don't know, he swam to shore or something. But my dad did the same thing. A guy in a canoe paddled him in. So it's not like boat racers are the smartest people in the world.
No, we're definitely not. And a lot of us are, lucky to be alive, let alone, like,
Knock on
like,
wood.
yeah, knock on wood. I got it right here.
So I was talking to Tim earlier. You guys are both obviously successful boat racers, but two different factions of the sport. Tim, could you get Myrick into an F1 boat and have him operate it successfully, and vice versa?
I think so, for sure. I mean, it, one of the biggest things in boat racing is reading the water. So I don't care if you're racing offshore, you're racing stock outboards, you're reading the water, and you're reading the wind on the water. Now, the smaller the boat, the more the wind affects it, but you can see those swirls coming down, and
Yeah.
and you know what to
Call it
expect when you get to them.
dirty water. Yeah, that's what we always called it.
Yeah. So, and we've got other guys doing it. Andrew Tate runs all the big inboards, 5 liter, the lights. He runs the unlimiteds, and he's running a Formula One boat with us at events that don't conflict with what he's got going on the inboards. So we've had offshore racers run with us before. We've had tunnel boat racers. Look at Benny Robertson
Yeah.
and my brother. They went from, and Reggie, they went from tunnel boat racing to offshore. So it's getting the feel of the boat, understanding how it works. But at the end of the day, racing's also racing. So to be successful at it, you have to be very good at the craft of racing. Whether you're racing any kind of boat, I did a lot of motorcycle road racing, and it was the same kind of thing. You still, if you race go karts, same kind of thing. You got to understand how to race, and it makes a big difference.
One thing to me that people don't understand is it's almost tougher for me to be in the lead than to be chasing someone down, because it's almost like you get lazy.
Start my shoes.
Well, it's one of those things. It's like if you're running 100%, which you have to be up front, and then you'll hear that
You
somebody's
get
catching.
conservative.
Yeah, you'll get a little conservative. You're like, well,
Yep.
I'm up here. I could just hold it. And then you'll hear the seconds go from 6-second lead to a 2-second lead. And you get all mental, and then you loosen the boat up, and then you do something dumb. And then they are right beside you. I think it's almost harder. And it's that whole underdog favorite thing. Who's the favorite? Who's the underdog? It's always cooler, in my opinion, to be the underdog. But when you do it long enough and you start to win, then you're not the underdog anymore. So you have to some expectations to meet, and it's just, I don't know. It's say for example, you're in a 15 lap race that's 70 miles long. You're in lap 2 and you're leading. You feel like, hey, I got this one, but you got to think also, I got 60 more miles to go, and a lot can happen in that 60 miles. So it's mind blowing, the amount of stress that it puts on you. And that's one of the things that I always that
it's mental.
Yeah, it's so mental. Yeah.
Racing's mental. I mean, the strongest guy wins, really. I mean, and you look at all the professional drivers now in car racing, motorcycle racing, they've got coaches, and what those coaches do, these guys are fast. They don't need to learn how to go faster most of the time. What they need to do is be able to control their mind so they can win championships.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not necessarily be the hothead that takes it hot into turn one.
Oh, no.
It's the guy that can be consistent and make the right decisions. It's just like when we talked to Paul Tracy, and they said stay in 4th place until the last 100 or last 10 laps. I forget what he said, but it was something like, and he goes, I was trying to pass in lap 2 and crashed.
I qualified 7th in my first race for them. And the team came to me and they said, okay, do not pass anybody. We want you to chill out and do nothing till you get to 400 miles. And lap 2, I'm trying to pass the guy in front of me, and I lost the car and crashed and broke my leg. Yeah, and wrote the car off.
Yeah. And Roger Penske said, well, go to the hospital.
Yeah, he was always, throw caution to the wind, and he's a big boater, so
it's cool.
He just has that mentality. I'm going to win this thing. I don't care where I'm starting. I'm going to win it.
Yeah.
Back to Myrick's point, taking those turns. Myrick, you said you like to get from point A to point B. Watching those F1 boats take a turn is insane.
It's mind blowing. So yeah.
Right?
So how bad does it disorient you, or what's it like when you got your boat set up perfect and you're extremely confident in it, and you can slam the trim button down and leave that thing wide open through a turn, and then just grab the trim back up? I mean, are you just guesstimating how much to turn it, or are you actually
no?
So what do you do?
Just like in your boats, you're depending on the water, you can run that thing 135 miles an hour, and you can turn it and never take your foot off the gas, and you can do a 180. But it just depends on reading the water and how it is.
Muscle memory.
It is, and you get used to it. You get used to the side G's. Everybody always talks about, especially the front to back lateral G's, where the side G's are way harder on you. So the worst G load that my data acquisition ever picked up was in we're racing with the Unlimiteds at Seafair, and they had a long back straightaway, and it had a little right hand sweeper in it, and then you went into a hard left hander, and it would spike to 8.
Jeez.
It was crazy. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So, but it's, you know, it's like everything else. You get used to it. But I can tell you, I always used to go down to Lucas and test, and on the where they have the drag strip for the boats, but it's like 400 feet wide, so I'll run a circle course in there. And by the time you got done with 2 days of testing, I mean, your insides hurt. That's how what a toll it would take on you.
Yeah. I remember I was crew chiefing for your brother, and he showed up with this like flak jacket kind of life jacket. And
Yeah,
I was like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Well, you know, that way when I like tense up, I can get my core tighter. That way my guts don't take a beating, because I've found, or we've found, that that's better long term on not getting so beat up, whether it's a beating like this or a side to side. Is like you can get your core nice and tight because you got this like girdle on almost
yeah.
that holds everything together. And then there was one thing I asked you, I don't know, it was last year or the year before. I was like, what was one of the biggest changes that you've ever felt? And you told me my seat, when we started doing the pour foam seats and
The
getting it
bead
all,
seats, yeah.
yeah, to get it all around you to encapsulate you or to fit you perfectly. It was a huge difference in being able to feel the boat and drive the boat.
Oh yeah, for sure. So originally, you know, you weren't strapped in or anything. So you're holding yourself in and you're just sitting in a seat. So when that happens, um, you know, you couldn't drive nearly as hard. So now you've got bead seat. Uh-oh, I'm screwing this up. You
Yeah.
got bead seats and everything else that help hold you in, and it makes such a difference. Not to mention, you've got electric power steering in the boats now, so
Yeah.
that makes a huge difference. And my
And
dad
before it was
always,
all cable, right?
well, you're still using cable, but you've got electric power steering, electric assist in
Oh,
between the steering drum and the wheel. So it's funny. My dad's like, "Well, I never had that." I'm like, "Well, you would have if they would have had it back then because it's nice."
yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
So, Tim, you said you started racing at 11. How long was your actual racing career?
I started when I was 8,
Oh,
and my dad started when he was 11, and so I raced for 46 years or something.
that's
Long
amazing.
time.
And then,
How many races do you think you raced? Do you have any idea?
Oh, I have no idea. No idea.
Thousands.
A lot, because you know, when I was growing up, you'd have a regional club like the Great Lakes Boat Club race or Great Lakes Boat Club. Well, they'd have 6, 7, 8 races, and then you would race on the national circuit once I turned 16. So you do all those, and then you do the 5 or 6 races, 7 races on the national circuit. The last year I ran was 2016, and I did about 14 races that year.
yeah.
Because I wanted to hit everything I could.
Yeah. Did you know that was your last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd made a
I was
plan.
actually I was actually going to stop the year prior to that, but then in 2016, my longtime sponsor, I was with NGK for 22 years, and they had their 50th anniversary. So Mike Schwab, who's VP of NGK America, he asked me if I would race one more year, and I said, "We'll do it, but let's do." We called it the Last Lap Tour, and that was my swan song season.
That's a good way to go out, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously throughout your whole racing career, you made a lot of friends, like the gentleman behind you, Greg Foster, who we just lost to cancer. Can you tell us about that?
You know, Greg is, try not to get choked up, so excuse me if I do, but he is a great friend of boat racing, great friend of mine, my family. And, we just love his family. I want to send my condolences out to his family, his dad, Bill, and Kelly, his partner. It's just a huge loss for the people that his nickname, he had two nicknames, Madman Across the Water and Fearless. And that's how he approached everything. Greg would race anything with an engine in it, and he would race it well. On the Formula One boat series, we raced Mod VP together. We raced SST 140 together. We raced Formula One. He was the last guy that you wanted to be on the course with because he was so good and so aggressive. But he was the first one you wanted to drink a beer with after you got off the course. And,
That's cool.
That's one thing I love about powerboat racing is the camaraderie, and that's not everywhere in the world, and it's not in every sport. But it does seem to be in boat racing, and I am extremely blessed to be able to have long-term friends from my whole life. I mean, even like the guys that used to come and stay at my mom and dad's house when I was little, Reggie and Earl, and
Earl
you
Bentz
name
is
it.
who he's saying.
Yeah. So these guys were just normal guys that happened to be unbelievable and legends in our sport later on. Not necessarily at that time, but later on. Case Vandervelde and Bob Spalding and Tom Percival and just Mark Wilson, Jackie Wilson. I mean, the list goes on, and it just you enjoy still staying in touch with them.
Yeah, that's so cool that you can mention all those icons and that they stayed at your house and you were a little guy or a teenager or whatever you were at the time, little running around, and it didn't even mean much to you at the time, but then you look back and you're like, holy shit, that's cool.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. My dad and I went. I think it was last summer. We went over to England, and we went. They had a reunion in Bristol, and so we went back, and so we went over to England, and Jackie got it. Jackie's 90, 91. He's picking us up, driving like a madman through traffic. And anyway, we hung out with him and his daughter and Clive, her husband. And it just, it's those relationships that you cherish.
Yeah.
That is neat.
Sorry for the loss of your friend, Greg.
Well,
sorry.
Thank you very much. He'll be missed. If you didn't know Fearless, you missed out because he was unique and he was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold your shirt up for everybody to see there.
There it is.
That's badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Tim, you retired in 2016, but you didn't leave racing. You shifted gears, so to speak, right? You're putting on the races.
We did. So before I retired, we had some good sponsors, and I told them what I wanted to do because we weren't, in my opinion, and my partner, John Shubert, who comes from a racing family, all the way from his dad down to his kids. We wanted something, we wanted to help. And the last thing you want to do is spend your entire life dedicating it to powerboat racing and then leave it in a worse spot than when you came and got involved. So we wanted to do our own thing and try and help powerboat racing. So that's when we started the F1 Powerboat Championship. And the sponsors that I had for the last few years, they came with me to help sponsor the series to get it going. So without NGK, we would have never got this off the ground. Without, you know, CDI Electronics and at the time, marineengines.com, you know, these guys helped us tremendously because they gave us Seaway Marine, Greg Jacobson. So we got a start for our series. So we had, you know, some decent, we got television back involved, and we just kind of grew it, and it's been a learning experience. I wish I would have had the experience and the knowledge now of promoting and running the boat races then, you know, but I didn't. And like everything else, you have to learn and you have to grow. And that's part of, you know, what we do. But it has been going well. It's powerboat racing is always something that is not the mainstream. So we got to work harder at it, and we've got to figure out innovative ways to promote it, and connecting the people that do have a passion for it.
Well, that being said, I mean, you guys are doing an amazing job with partnering with people and companies like Mercury Racing, and you've got quite the schedule lined up for 2023. Tell us about that.
We do. So we've got some new partners. Mercury Racing has been a partner of ours for several years. Not only they were partners of the Seebold family forever, but we've been partnering up with OPA on the Lotto event that we had earlier this year.
PowerFest,
yeah, PowerFest, and we're also partnering with P1 Awesome and his great team over at P1 for the Midwest Challenge up in Sheboygan, which is actually to celebrate and part of Mercury Racing's 50th anniversary. And then we've got a new partner this year. Oh, that's a huge deal. City of Sheboygan is been nothing but fantastic from the time we originally pitched the idea to them. We also have a new partner this year, which is American Outdoor Events. Midwest Outdoors is one of their brands, but these guys do all kinds of events all over the country. So they help produce King of the Hammer, the Ultra 4. So they're bringing in the Nitro Circus.
Yeah.
So
that King of Hammer is a big deal too. I mean,
yeah,
we got a buddy Q that has tried it or done it, and he says you would not believe the amount of equipment that you break in one of those. What do they call it? A Baja truck or whatever it is. I think there's a lot
class
of
one truck or whatever.
Yeah, class one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different classes that you can get into at the King of Hammers. But yeah, just like you said, you were mentioning a lot of different types of racing that this that is being supported by this group. That's awesome.
It is, because you know the last 7-8 years, all kinds of activity, especially coming out of COVID. After COVID, the whole world changed. So what we're trying to do is partner to make more of a event, a festival. You know, years ago, it was, no, we have to be hardcore boat racers, and that's the only thing you do. Guess what? That isn't the only thing you do. We need the casual fan as much as we need the hardcore fan. And how do you become a hardcore fan if you never heard of it? Yeah. So by being in front of this new audience, it opens the door for powerboat racing, and that's the kind of partners we need.
Yeah.
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting that guy, Jason, who runs the American Outdoor Events, and this guy, he does things to the next level, right? I mean, he's got his event coming up in Oklahoma soon.
Yeah.
And then the one that you guys are doing in Lake Havasu at the end of October.
We are. So Mid America Outdoors is also one of his places in Jay, Oklahoma, and it's right next to Grove. And those guys do all kinds of side by side events. So the cool thing about Jason is he wants to bring in partners and he wants to share his partners with the partners he brings in. So we're going to do boats, beats, and barbecue in Grove, Oklahoma on September 1st to the 3rd. That's going to be our first event with them. So we're going to have, I think they've got a barbecue cook-off, and don't hold me to this, but I think first place is like 20 grand or something.
Yeah.
And he's going to, big money. And he's got local, regional, and national music acts that are going to partner with us. We also have Kicker Marine Audio that we have grown our partnership with over the last few years. Started in Lake Havasu, and thanks to Dan Murphy, got together with them. They like what we're doing. They were part of the Lotto Power Fest event. They're going to be part of the Grove and part of Havasu again. And they came on as a series sponsor. So it's really good to mingle all of this and bring all these people together, because we have things that help them. Just like we want to bring a Kicker down here to the lake, and they want to do 3 different music stops, one of them being at the boat race next year. So this will help build what we're doing.
Yeah. And then back to your earlier conversation we had, the Havasu event, they're mixing boat racing with rodeo.
We've got, I'll tell you what, if you want to go to something crazy.
Are you going to ride a bull, Tim? You got the physique to be.
No way. Well, when we were with Bud Light for years, I always hung out with the rodeo guys. So Justin McBride, Ty Murray, Tough Hedeman.
Oh yeah, I remember meeting them
Ross
at the
Coleman. So we would hang out.
Crazy.
They're wilder than deers.
Yeah.
So I went to some rodeos. There's no way I'm getting on a bull. But in Havasu, we moved it back a couple weeks. So it's going to be October 27th through the 29th. And we're going to have bull riding finals for, sorry, I forgot which association. We've got side-by-side racing, several different areas of that. We have got Nitro Circus is going to be there. We got powerboat racing. We've got vendor village. We got music. It's going to be wild, and we're moving it over to Windsor, so that way we can have everything at one location.
And remind me, Windsor's the north side of the island, maybe?
Well, it's off the island. You actually go off the island, and so you know where the canal is.
Yeah.
So
it's like the outside of the channel.
It's the outside of the channel, and I've raced there before. It can be challenging, but
just depending on wind, obviously
it can. And we looked at the wind charts, and you're with any of these powerboat races, especially the bigger water, you always have a challenge, but we're up for it. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a lot of fun.
I think the Jet Ski World Championships are there in that similar location.
It is. They're at Crazy Horse, which is going to be just right down from where we're at.
I see.
Is it the same weekend?
No, not the same weekend. Oh, that'd be too crazy.
That would be too crazy.
I want to go out there, Ray. I think we need to do a Speedboat magazine shoot or something. I want to be there for that weekend.
Oh, they're going to have a fun run that weekend too for the offshore guys.
Maybe I'll couple the evaluations to that week.
Yeah,
There
come
you go.
on, bring some boats out.
Hey,
I'll go run them
I'll
around.
volunteer. Yeah, I'll run them.
Yeah, perfect.
So
Yep.
back to the partnership with Mercury Racing. All three of us are going to be at the Midwest Challenge in Sheboygan, which is a race that they're putting on. And Tim, you'd like to issue a challenge out to the public and the
I do.
fans.
I do. So P1 and F1 are co-producing this event, and Mercury has got a unbelievable 50. Mercury Racing has an unbelievable 50-year history, and we're going to have vintage boats. We're going to have street parties. We're going to have some exhibition. I'm going to have the two-seater there. So, Myrick, you got to ride in the two-seater when we
Yeah,
get it up there.
I've sat in it before you had that Apex engine on the back of it. I was already
Yeah.
like, let's go.
Well, we got VIP areas. We've got free public areas. We're going to have some music at the street party, and we're going to have food trucks. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We have put a lot of time and effort into it. And I want to challenge not only the performance community, because we could use your help. We need some safety boats, some outer patrol boats to keep the public off of the race course safety zone. So if you or anybody out there or any clubs have boats and would like to volunteer, get a hold of me, Tim Seebold at hotmail.com, or you can call me, 573-216-1817. That's my cell phone. My number's on everything we have on F1, and we would appreciate your help. But more importantly, we want to get legends there from all disciplines of powerboat racing, no matter what boat you drive, no matter what motor you drove, and come and support this event that is going to be a milestone for the performance boating industry.
Yeah, that's you did a really good job. It's well said, because just like in that deal that we went out to in South Carolina for the release of the 500, and that being kind of the start of the 50th year anniversary for Mercury Racing, it was blowing me away with all the faces that I saw in that room and at the gala of icons, and pretty cool way of saying it, Tim, to get those people out there. Come to the event. If you have had any part of Mercury Racing, whether you've had a product or bought a t-shirt, come out there and hang out and
Exactly. Or if you're just a
reap the
fan,
benefits.
meet
Yeah,
your
right. The
legend.
benefits.
Come,
Yeah.
come and meet your legend.
Yeah.
Benny Robertson, King Cobra, that's my nickname for him. King Cobra,
Yeah.
Benny Robertson, he told me that he booked his room today. And, I think Amanda Latham's supposed to come. We got all the people from Performance going to be there. We got, I just had a long meeting today with VP Racing Fuels, and we're going to introduce their EcoGen 93 fuel, which is a sustainable fuel, so it's better for the environment. And we're going to bring that. That's the only fuel that everybody's going to run, because it's Mercury Racing approved.
Cool. Yeah.
We got some cool things happening, and I'm excited.
We'll have the FASS Diesel Systems Performance Boat Center S21 out there trying to get a win. We'll be driving the MCon Class 1 and running it on this fuel. So that's a neat deal. I'm excited with all this Mercury Racing stuff going on.
Oh my gosh, I got first thing this morning. I got a call at 7 in the morning, and got me out of bed, of course. But talking about the trophies, so we're making some special trophies, and we're getting some help from a buddy of ours in the industry, and so
Yeah,
STR.
now I'm gonna have to win one now.
Oh yeah. Oh no,
Yeah.
they're going to be aluminum, and then they're going to have a propeller on it, and the propeller will mimic the propeller of each class, so they'll all be different.
Oh, that's
It's
cool.
it's
Instead of,
going to
yeah,
be
if you don't have a five
it's going
blade
to be
cleaver on your boat, why would you have one on your trophy? Yeah, that's cool.
yeah. So if you're running super stock, you're going to have a through hub DeWalt or
Yeah, yeah,
Mercury on. So it's going to
yeah,
mimic
yeah.
that.
That's cool. That means a lot. I mean, a lot of the times I think of that. My wife actually got a tattoo when we first started dating, and she was all proud of this tattoo she had, and it had my initials in each blade. And I said, "Is that a cruiser prop?" And
Speedboat
she,
prop.
yeah, ski boat prop. That's what it looks like. She's flipping me off right now across the way.
Yeah. Well,
But
she should.
yeah, she should. But anyway, it's funny that you bring up the fact that the trophy will uh, be accurate to the class that's racing. That's neat. Hopefully, I can get one or two.
Yeah, I hope you do. I hope you do. We're just trying to pay attention to detail, not only for the fans, but also for the racers. And it goes hand in hand. We can't
I
do anything without the other. And why would you want to race if you don't have people there watching you?
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think that
gonna.
I think that your guys' ideas of making it like a weekend, whatever you said before with the names, a barbecue, boats and bros, or whatever it was, but it was that makes total sense, because you can't rate. It's not like we go out and race 500 miles. We got to do, short term, maybe 100-mile race, but it's cool that you have other things going on, whether it be a bags tournament or whatever it takes to keep people entertained and having fun in these great venues that we get to go to.
Oh
For
yeah,
sure.
I mean, did Ray back in the day? Did you ever go to Bayfair in San
Oh yeah,
Diego?
yeah.
I
We
mean,
go and camp for the whole weekend, and was sorry to
oh
hear this
yeah. What is
this year.
that? Fiesta Island?
Hmm. Yeah,
So we used to race there with it, and my point is that when you would go to that race, they had, and this was in the mid to late 90s that we
hmm,
raced there. You had drag boats, you had offshore boats, you had Formula One tunnel boats, you had SST 45s, the Formula Lights, you had kneel downs, you had
hydro.
you had the unlimited lights, and then you had the unlimiteds, and
Yeah,
we all raced at that one venue.
right.
And I mean, and then we all did the awards together, and
Yeah,
we would have so much fun. And you're meeting guys like Gordy Jennings, and I mean, it just goes on and on how much interaction that you have with these guys. Lance Faulkner, we used to do a lot of stuff with Lance, and in fact, he let me drive one of his flat bottoms once at St. Louis. His super stocks.
That's
So
cool.
it was anyway, those kind of events, I mean, that was like the Super Bowl of powerboat racing,
yeah,
and that's what we need to regenerate.
yeah. So we're fortunate enough to see you and your dad and your brother at the Miami Boat Show for the Mercury Racing thing there, and then again in Charleston. Will your family be in Sheboygan?
My dad will be there. My brother won't be able to make it. So yeah, we're my dad loves coming to this stuff,
Yeah.
and
People love seeing him, right?
yeah.
People just clamor when they see him. So
I do have to say though, on that Charleston event, did you guys ride on that pontoon boat with the twin 500s on it?
there was two pontoon boats there.
The trifecta is the one that my dad and I rode on.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That thing accelerated like a Formula One boat, and it four of us in it. and it topped out at 85.
Wow.
Jeez, that's flying.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just had to, it was impressive.
Yeah.
No, for
Yeah. It always says, did you say pontoon boat or tri-tune?
Yeah, that shows my age.
No, I always say pontoon boat, and Brett, the co-owners performers, he goes, Myrick, it's tri-tune. And on the Boats and Bros podcast out at Lake Havasu on the street party, he lit me up like I didn't know what the difference was. I'm like, oh, they're all pontoons, bud. Oh, we actually have a customer here too that has a pontoon boat we just delivered. So plan our
tri-tune budget.
Oh, sorry.
Tri-tune.
With two 450s that runs over 80 miles an hour.
There's 3 logs,
Tubby
2 big
McDonald.
engines.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good. I mean, they are from Oklahoma, but they like 900 horse.
Rooster tails and 90 miles.
Tri-tune. Sorry, not pontoon. So do you call these catamarans pontoons or?
We're getting that discussion.
Well, once they start running 85, all of a sudden it's a different animal.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah.
You've got one heck of a 2023 lined up. What's in store for 2024?
2024, we're working on new races. We have got, and when we put these races on, even though the Midwest Challenge in Sheboygan is a first-year event, we want it, there's so much work that goes into it. We want it to be an annual event. But we're working on bringing Pittsburgh back in 2024. We are working on going down a couple races down south. One of them is in conjunction with a food festival, and they get 150,000 people over 3 days at this food festival right on the river. So why not give some entertainment on the water?
Makes a lot of sense.
We're working on another event in the Midwest, right outside St. Louis, another new event. So we just we hope that we can bring the people that used to go to the St. Louis Grand Prix and get them over at this other new event that we're working on. So we've got a lot in store. We've got new partners that are looking at it, and hopefully we can get them to come on board. But it's all about connecting the people and trying to get everybody a return on not only their investment, but more importantly, from being involved with us. And we want to continue our collaboration with P1 and OPA offshore, because I think it's a great marriage for the offshore boats and the tunnel boats to run together.
I was blown away with how well you guys, I mean, in between our races at the Lotto Power Fest, you guys were out there ripping it up. I mean, I was hopping out of one boat, and then when I got into the other boat, I'd sit out there and watch your races. And then you had the tri-hulls, the Texas tri-hulls and everything. And that was,
how'd you like that?
Oh, it's funny. We were sitting in the boat, and I was like, man, that boat, I forget the number 7 or the color. He had like an orange cage over him. And I was like, that guy's out of control. I was like, I think he's going to win. And it ended up winning right in the last lap of the last heat. I was like, called it.
Oh, yeah, Neil Bob. He's from Bay City, Michigan.
Yeah. I had like an orange cage over, it's a blue boat, I think, with an orange cage over the top of him. It was hilarious.
His name Neil Bob?
Neil Bob. Bob. That's his nickname. Neil Marsh. Neil Marsh is his real name. Everybody's got a nickname, So I ran out of time, but what I was going to try and do is I wanted to call Rusty and say, hey, Rusty, why don't you try and run one of these tri-hulls? We'll give you a boat to run. I knew you couldn't do it because you were already in
multiple boats. Yeah. I was trying my best to do the old I don't know what the slide move that you do in a tri-hull, but I was trying to do that slide move past the New Zealand guys for the Valder Yachts guy, and I couldn't get around them, but we tried hard.
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Hold on, I have to hold this up. I
right.
have to show that I'm a groupie.
There you go.
Seebold groupie right here.
Mike and
It
Bill.
don't have one of Tim's boats on there, but it has his dad and his brother's boats.
I'll get you one of my last lap NGK signs.
Oh yeah, I'd love that. Hang that in the old man cave.
Yeah.
That'd be badass.
You got it. I still got some left.
Perfect.
Hey, so Tim, where can everybody keep up with all the latest and updates and news from F1 Powerboat Championships?
So we live stream all of our shows. You can watch it on Facebook when Facebook doesn't kick us off, and YouTube. So YouTube's a little it's a little easier for us to do, because for whatever Facebook, if they hear a background song, and it's copyrighted, they'll kick you off of it. So we do it in both places. You can go to F1 Powerboat Championship.com, and you can look us up on Facebook, F1 Powerboat Championship. So
the guys that are filming your stuff and that fly the drones are unbelievable. To be able to follow that boat around at 120, 130 miles an hour right on top of it blows my mind. We were sitting there watching it on our phones in the race boat, and then looking out and going, there's a drone above them. You can't even see it. It's going so fast.
I know, but they're not that big. It's unbelievable.
They're tiny and they're fast, and they sound like angry hornets.
Oh yeah.
That's how
they do. So. Those guys over at Live Media Services, Brandon, he does a fantastic job. Those guys have been our partners for the last few years, and we love working with them because they'll adapt. Too many times, especially with TV production or live streaming, it's like, no, it has to be done this way. Well, you know what? Nothing ever quite works out exactly how you plan it. So you got to be able to adapt. And those guys do a great job of that.
Yeah,
that's cool. Sure.
Well, Tim, I want to thank you very much for your time, and thanks for joining us. You've got such a history between your entire family and continuing to carry on powerboat racing as you do. Kudos to you, and thanks so much.
Extremely honored to have you on here, buddy. Well, I love hanging out with you, and we need to do it more.
Yeah. Hey, I think we ought to go down to the car races. I'm going to try and make that with you.
We're going to make that happen. August 17th, SRX series at the Lucas Oil Speedway, just in Wheatland, Missouri. And I think it'd be a great thing to, with Paul Tracy being a boater, Clint Boyer being a local legend as far as a NASCAR guy and being around the lake. I think it's going to be awesome to be down there for that. So Thursday Night Thunder at SRX series at Lucas Oil. So I'll be jacked.
Yep.
Damn, might have to come out early just to join you for that.
Yeah. I mean, you travel all the time, buddy. I
was flying that Sunday, so just a few more days, right?
Yeah, this is is this your first time home in like a month?
No, in like a month and a half, 6 or 7 weeks. And,
oh my gosh.
Sucks to be Ray.
I'll tell you what, though, we're very fortunate to be able to race all over the world, and there's nothing like going to an event, but I got to tell you, there's nothing like coming home after an event. And I love going back to Lake of the Ozarks.
Sleeping in your own bed.
Oh, yeah. Seeing your dog, seeing your kids, I mean, everything.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, Tim, thank you so much for your time. This has been another episode of the Boats and Bros podcast. Please remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned. More episodes coming. We apologize for the lack of episodes in the last few weeks. Like Myrick said, he's
been traveling.
Yeah. But anyway, Boats and Bros podcast. Tim Seebold, Myrick Coil. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, guys.
This podcast is powered by Speedboat Magazine. Subscribe now at speedboat.com for 9 power-packed current issues a year direct to your mailbox.